Thank you, Emily. All right, here's a question. What would you do if your husband played football on the weekends? Pro, maybe. Well, how about write a book? Amber Moorman, she has written a new book called The Survivor's Game. It's an e-book, and your husband happens to be Brian Moorman, who's Bill's punter, and this is not your first book. You wrote a children's book.
I did.
But you never went far to publish it.
Right. I don't draw well, and so I just kind of sat there, and Brian does take it around and read it to classes when he goes and speaks with them and reads to them. But it doesn't have any pictures.
Well, this one really, your new book does not need any pictures. Far cry from the children's book.
Yes.
Just give us a little bite about it, what it's about.
It is about revenge. It's kind of a dark, gritty story about a man whose wife's murdered by a paroled felon, and what he does to kind of cope with the fact that he will then be out on parole again.
I did a little background on this, and this is how Amazon describes it. The Survivor's Game is a character-driven psychological drama of 110,000 words. It has gotten 5 stars across the board so far. And I have to say that I was reading also that Brian actually said, let's just say we don't speak like that around the house. No. And to be honest, the first time I read it, I was like, whoa, scared me a little. I said, I'm married to you?
Yeah.
When you first had him read it,
yes.
What was his reaction, and were you nervous?
Oh my gosh, it was gut-wrenching. You know, you expect him to react appropriately as he reads certain parts, and you know, if he doesn't, then it's like, well, what's wrong? You kind of bare your soul, and then it's all out there for someone else to read. So
and now you're really vulnerable because you have now the entire public able to read your work.
Yes.
This was based on true event that you'd known about.
Yes.
Just some events, and were you it was a story you said that you had to tell.
It was. The nucleus of the book is based on a crime that actually happened. All of the characters are fictional. But it was, when I was in college, I walked by this house that these events happened in, and it just kind of took form in my head, and I just kind of scratched out an outline one day, and then I kind of fleshed it out a little bit, and then, you know, all of a sudden I have this book, and not all of a sudden, it was several years, but it was something that, you know, these characters were speaking to me, and I just needed it out there. So.
And you decided to e-publish, which so many people are going to, because these days, as I was reading, it is harder to get an agent than it is to get into the NFL, which, if you put it like that, you know, it's so difficult. My former co-anchor, I was telling you, Lisa Scott, finally is a published author.
That's amazing.
It took many, many years, but, you know, if you just keep at it, I imagine. What are your goals?
I would love to become, you know, part of a major publishing house. If that doesn't happen, I'm still writing. I've got another book. It's kind of the follow-up to this one. I'm about 6 chapters in, so it's got a ways. But you know, I'm not gonna let it stop me either. So.
Do you like this type of, like, the suspenseful thriller?
I do.
You do? One of the things I was reading about from the reviews is that I couldn't put it down. It was so thrilling, and every time I was expecting what is going to happen next, there it goes, and something. How do you do something like that? How do you figure out what step to go and not to make people go, oh, come on?
Editing. I cut out about 100,000 words.
By yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
With the help of other friends or something?
I went to a convention and they were saying, you know, it's too long. It's too long. So I went through and I cut a bunch out. And I spoke to another author who said, cutting out is always better. You know, making it shorter is always better. And there are parts that I thought, oh, I have to have this, but it wasn't, you know, essential. So I cut it. And then I went back and read it later. And I was like, you know, it's so much better without it. So it's...
Well, from the reviews, I think that down the line, maybe about 10, 20 years, Brian is going to be known as Amber Moorman's husband.
My mother said the same thing. So
well, we'll have to keep in touch with us for the next book when it comes out.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck to you. If you want to get the book, go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, iBooks as well?
Soon
iBooks. All right, Amber Moorman, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to go now to the newsroom and see what the News 4 News team is working on with Nalina and Russ.